You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network, produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
In the span of just a few months, COVID-19 has taken a toll on many communities worldwide, including ours. But I have good news, Clarksville. Welcome back to the Clarksville Community Network. I'm Sydney Hawkins, and today we will be looking at how Austin Peay State University plans to welcome their students back this fall, how a local organization managed to home make over 20,000 masks, and how your children can benefit from a local back-to-school drive hosted by a rising organization. Stick around. Sometimes situations arise where we may not know what to say or how to respond, so we get experts to do it for us. Today, I am sitting with Charles Booth, Director of Communication at Austin Peay State University and a local writer. Charles, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you tell me a little about yourself?
I work at Austin Peay State University, Director of Communication there. I earned my master's from Austin Peay back in 2010, I believe. But I spent most of my life in Clarksville. Grew up here since 1980. My family moved from Louisiana, so we're considered, I guess, native Clarksvillians.
What's a typical day look like for you as Director of Communication?
There's a lot that can go into it. We talk to professors from all different departments about interesting things they're doing. If there's an emergency situation, maybe like the 1999 tornado, I wasn't there for that, but we would do emergency communications, make sure everyone is safe. We do morning announcements that we send out, or any kind of alerts if there's a parking issue. We work with reporters, so it's a great job because there's always something new, and you get to talk to great faculty members who are doing exciting things. Right.
And how has that changed, or has it changed any since COVID?
Oh, since COVID, it's the change is that there's much more immediate need for communication. We want to make sure that everyone, faculty, staff, students are getting the information we're sending them. We want to make sure they're being safe, but we also want to make sure we're not overloading them because we don't want them to completely ignore the message because they're like, oh, another communication from Austin Peay. So we're trying to vary our communication channels but keep everybody informed.
Right. I'm sure it's important to make sure that they get the necessary information on the right day.
Right.
At the right time.
Yeah. Because you were SGA president. How do you see it changing the campus?
Well, I'm no longer the president anymore. I've passed the torch on, but I definitely noticed how when I started my term, I started going to the president's cabinet and everything in the fall. Whereas the new president, he's having to be at those meetings now because he needs to inform the student body about things that are changing every day.
Yeah. Do you miss going to campus?
I do. I was just telling Dr. Sullivan, some days I just get out of my apartment and walk to campus and just sit like in the plaza with my laptop and just do work there. I have enjoyed staying home, but I do miss like seeing friendly faces.
Yeah, it's strange right now. I'll occasionally have to go to campus. I work remotely, as do the majority of people, and it's such a beautiful campus, and it's just strange seeing it so quiet and you're just waiting for students and faculty to return.
So you said you've been in Clarksville since 1980, right?
Yes, yeah.
And how long have you been at Austin Peay?
I've been at Austin Peay for since 2008, so I wasn't a math major, so it'll take me a few seconds. That's like, 12 years?
Yeah. So what type of changes have you seen in the Clarksville community and on Austin Peay's campus since you've been here?
I've seen the university grow. It keeps, in terms of student population, but in programs they're offering, facilities. There's great new buildings all around campus. The creative arts programs are really growing, and they're really, it's one of my passions, is like the Center of Excellence for the Creative Arts. They have a great director and a great set of programs and offerings they have. Clarksville has also grown, but before the pandemic, we were the number one city. We voted number one city to live. Yeah, and it was great. Seeing these parks and downtowns and all these new amenities, all these great restaurants. My wife and I we lived in East Nashville for a while, and we loved the local vibe there, and now it feels like it's here in Clarksville. It's got everything we want.
Austin Peay definitely introduced me to TikTok. I know I would see videos for Gov's Row and different SGA events even, or Austin Peay All-City events, so I was definitely introduced to.
We have a social media coordinator named Taylor Slifko, and she's amazing, and she really embraced TikTok early on when a lot of people didn't know what this platform was. And she's been quoted as an early adopter in the Chronicle of Higher Education, a major publication. She was supposed to present at a major conference on Austin Peay's use of TikTok until the pandemic happened, and then her presentation. So she's done an amazing job, and for someone like me who doesn't necessarily understand it, but she has figured out that this is something that engages our students. This is where our students and our potential students, the high school students now, that's the way to reach them is through these social media platforms.
Right.
Yeah, she showed us one, I guess it was footage of Austin Peay campus set to the music from the TV show The Office, and it was just this great little video, and I was like, what is this? And she's like, TikTok, and now it's just taken off.
Yeah. And I even love the graduation edition because unfortunately graduation spring commencement was postponed, but she was still able to make it fun and interactive for the graduates. Yeah, it was great, and it's great to hear that that alumni and alumnus love to see that. Well, I haven't graduated yet.
So. Oh, you haven't graduated yet?
No,
okay.
I graduate in December.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Yeah.
Thanks. Anything you want to talk about being the director of communication, or Austin Peay, or Clarksville?
It's really everything feels like it's on the right track, even with this current situation with the pandemic. I'm in a lot of these task force meetings, and it's really been inspiring to see people really care about the university and working hard to make sure that they're trying to do everything right. And they know, we might make mistakes, but everyone is doing it with their heart in the right place, and that's nice.
Yeah, and I'm sure the students really appreciate that. I can say I really appreciated Austin Peay's response when the pandemic first happened, how they got Wi-Fi for students who lived in rural areas, and just different, the summer scholarships for people taking summer classes. So Austin Peay's response has been really great.
Well, that's great to hear that, because I've been in these meetings, but I know the people who have really worked hard to make these things happen, and it's great to have colleagues like that.
Yeah. So I know that you write for fun. What types of writing projects do you usually do?
I have my Master's of Fine Arts in creative writing, fiction writing, and so I like fiction. I like short stories because it takes up so much of my time in my job. I don't have enough time to write anything longer, so usually I get up about 5 a.m. in the morning and write for about an hour short stories, and I've had some minor success with things being published in journals. So it's just something I am passionate about and love, and I'll probably never I'll never be a John Grisham, but it's just something I love and to love pursuing.
Yeah. Have you written anything recently about our current state? There's so much happening since the beginning of 2020. Have you taken a creative spin of that?
I've been thinking about it, but I feel like I'm still too close to it. I've been reading things that are very pandemic related, like the plague, and there's a Philip Roth novel called Nemesis about a polio outbreak in the 40s, and which is not a good escape literature right now, probably, but I've been reading it.
It's relevant.
Yeah, it's relevant. I've been reading about it. I'm just glad I'm able to be writing it, because when the pandemic first happened, you're just sort of thrown off your routines, and I wasn't making time to write.
Right.
But now I'm back into it.
And these are unfortunate times, but it's good to document so you can look back and say,
exactly.
I was able to accomplish this during this time.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a challenge now, but I'm in a writing group with a lot of local writers. Some affiliated with Austin Peay. They have a great creative writing program in their language and lit department. Great writers. So it's fun. It's a lot of work, but fun.
Right. What types of things do you guys write about in your group?
We usually all submit short stories. We have a couple of poets that submit poems. I'm not a very talented poet, and I'm okay with that. But we will write everything from stories set in Clarksville to a fictionalized version of Clarksville to something set out in in Montana or just depending on where the people are from. We have a nonfiction writer working on a really powerful memoir she's writing, so it's really good to bounce ideas and to have people you respect tell you, hey, that's maybe don't do this or take that paragraph out or something.
What's the most unique story you've read about how someone has fictionalized the Clarksville community?
I do it a lot because I grew up here. I don't know if it's the best, but there's several stories I've written about things that have happened in my childhood growing up. I grew up close to a Dunbar Cave and would always play in the woods out there. And so I would set sort of coming of age stories about a young boy learning to grow up
in a cave?
Well, not in a cave, but next to the cave,
Okay.
kind of in the woods, similar settings.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me, telling me about your fun writing experiences and how you've impacted Austin Peay's campus and the Clarksville community.
Well, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Have you and a group of friends ever started a project together and set a goal? Maybe you set a goal of making 10 things, or 100, or even 1,000 items. Today, I am delighted to sit with Victoria Shoulders, who led a local organization, Operation Come Together, to making over 20,000 masks to help combat the spread of COVID-19. Victoria, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Sydney.
Can you tell me a little about Operation Come Together?
It's actually not a little bit. Operation Come Together was a whirlwind for 2 straight months for us. I put out a couple initial Facebook posts on March 20th after realizing that our medical facilities here in town were not adequately staffed with PPE. And the results in the first day, I got about 6 volunteers. So I was really excited. I was like, oh, wow, we're going to make some masks, because I don't sew. So for me to say, hey, let's sew masks, I was really just hoping on the volunteers to help. And on the day 2, we had over 100 volunteers showing up at my house in my driveway, which is where we started Operation Come Together.
Wow. So all 100 people were in your driveway?
Well, the way that we wanted it to work was that we wanted to adhere to social distancing even before social distancing was a thing, because I was tracking what was going on in other countries as early as January with COVID. So I was very COVID knowledgeable, and then once it hit Washington, I started seeing that they were really demanding a lot of masks, and they were just short. There was a 1 million mask challenge out in Washington, and then Deaconess in Indiana, they had the same issue. They needed more masks for their healthcare workers. So after talking to one of my friends who had COVID, early March, she was up in bed for 4 straight days. I was like, no, this can't happen. This can't happen in the United States of America, not in Clarksville, Tennessee. So basically the premise of Operation Come Together was there's a location, a distribution site, as you would call it, and drivers would come or deliver to pick up the materials that they needed to sew the mask safely from home. So basically it was really easy. You would pull up into my driveway. I would have a kit with fabric, elastic. At the time we had elastic the first 3 days. You could still get elastic. And then they would go home, sew the mask, and bring them back. And then once we had enough to cover a facility, we would drive it to the facility and give it to the healthcare workers that needed them. So 100 volunteers volunteering from home. And it was just amazing outpouring in those first 3 days. It was
I love
great.
that. So were they just friends, the volunteers, or Facebook friends? Or how
Yeah,
did it work?
so mostly it was a collection of my Facebook friends, and I know a lot of people because of my personal business, but then they would share it, and then their friends would share it, and then their friends would share it, and then it just became this huge group. So on the 3rd day, we realized very quickly, because I was getting probably 200 to 300 messages an hour on my Facebook Messenger, and I just couldn't keep up. So some of the lead volunteers that were helping me, I asked them, I said, do you mind opening distribution sites from your home? So everybody in Clarksville's not having to drive to my home. So after, I think we were on the 5th day, we had 9 sites operating.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had 6 in Clarksville, and then we expanded to Dover and Erin. We also launched a group on Fort Campbell. Hopkinsville started their own group, keeping the Operation Come Together umbrella. The PPE Stitchers got started up in Sumner County. A girl out in Cookville started a group. So like it just spread like wildfire all across our area of Tennessee. Everybody was starting groups to make face masks, and the Med Threads out in Nashville. So they had a huge contribution to the effort, but we were all pulling resources together to try to get as many masks into the hands of sewers as we could, the materials that you needed.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how many masks were coming back to your home at the end of the day?
Okay, so it would just vary. Like in the beginning, I'd say the first 3 days before we found a home, and we can talk about that later, but the first 3 days I was probably getting 50 masks. Like the first day we put out the materials, and then I got about 50 masks. By the end of Operation Come Together, we were getting about 400 a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you made over 20,000
26,000 masks.
Wow.
And we built 8,000 face shields.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you distribute them? Did you, when you got the 50, did you go ahead and send the 50 out, or did you wait until you got the 400?
You know, it would just depend on the facility, because you have to keep in mind, the most important, we had 5 phases of this operation. So when I was coming up with it, I knew that phase 1 had to be our healthcare, home healthcare, assisted living homes, and our first responders, because those are the people who needed it the most. We needed to protect the home healthcare workers who were going into elderly home, handicap home, and so we made sure that we covered all of them first. It only took us, I think, 27 days.
Wow.
So in 27 days, we were able to hit every healthcare worker from here to Erin, every single facility, assisted home, living facility, and then anyone who was in a first responders type position, like EMT workers, police officers, the sheriff's department, and military. Oh man, the military, that was a big undertaking.
I saw the pictures that you sent me. There were Clarksville police wearing some of the
Yes.
masks, even a local barbecue place
Yes.
wearing masks that you made.
Yes, yes.
How was their response when you gave them the masks?
We have so many videos. I wish I could just make a beautiful video, but I just don't have the time right now. But of all of the different people that received these masks in this moment of crisis, when we were all being told a mask will save your life, they were just so grateful and generous. And I remember when I got my first request for a mask, it was from a friend. Her name is Mandy, and she lives out in Dover, and her home health care facility that they were working from, they didn't have masks. And she was the first delivery after the first day, and it just felt so good to be able to send those to my hometown of Dover.
Right.
You know, to make sure that, you know, someone that I knew personally was getting the extra protection they needed, because they couldn't get them. They ordered masks, and for 2 months there was a backlog, and they just couldn't get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you had 5 phases. Can you explain the first one? Can you explain the other 4?
Yeah. So phase 1, we wanted to protect home health care, assisted living, anyone in the medical profession. So in the beginning, when people were reaching out to us and saying, I need masks for my children, I need masks for my husband, unless they worked in the facilities medically, we could not help them at that time, because we were not only getting requests from Clarksville, we were getting requests from New York.
Oh, wow.
We were getting requests from Texas, North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, you name it, we were getting requests for masks. And it was really, it's the most challenging and difficult thing to say, I'm so sorry, we're only helping our immediate area.
Yeah.
It really was tough. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we had the option on our website that we built. If you wanted to start your own operation, I could walk you through it, share everything that we did. It'd take you about 15 minutes to get off the ground. So that's how we were able to get so many different distribution sites running in different states too, like Ohio, and we had one start up in Florida. So, so after phase 1, we knew that once the healthcare workers were going to be protected, the second phase was going to be our essential workers. So this is when we were still in lockdown, stay-at-home orders, you know, everybody was supposed to be at home. And this giant list of everybody in Clarksville that was considered essential, and I'm sitting here looking, I'm like, well, who do we help first?
Right.
You know, because there were so many people still working in this community. And we felt that it was most dire to get to the grocery store workers and the gas station attendants. Because those are the ones that were coming in the most contact with the most people. So we made sure that, you know, anyone in those 2 industries that first week were able to get masks after we completed the home health care workers.
Right.
And so we had a lot of masks come out. And then the third phase we felt was really important to make sure that anyone that was immune compromised or elderly, anyone that had any type of underlying health issues that would need a mask to go to their doctor's appointments or what have you. So we made sure that that was put out there, and our military appreciation happened during that time too. So because we had the group on Fort Campbell helping us sew, we were able to get the pattern that they needed, because they did need a specific pattern with a specific type of paracord, and we were able to push out a ton of masks to the military, which was really important because they went on mandatory masks before Clarksville did.
Right.
So they were in more of a dire need for them. And then, the rest of the phases were families, getting the mask onto the faces of families, because once the stay-at-home order was lifted and people could start going back out again, they still need to protect themselves with a face covering. To this day, you still need to be protecting yourself with a face covering. So we knew that the families that needed to go out and that had children, they were in a huge need as well. So we made sure that that open distribution was given to the whole community.
I love that.
Yeah, it was great.
And how did you distribute them? Were they mail deliveries or in person?
So I had a crazy idea one night, because I was only getting about 4 hours of sleep for the first month, that wouldn't it be great if somebody could just drive up and their mask come out of a chute, like at Walgreens or at like the bank. And so that old Rite Aid that sits on Madison Street next to the Kroger, I was able to find out who owned it. And then I called her, and she's out in California. Her name is Susan Sad, and her husband Pierre. And I said, hey, and I explained what we were doing. She didn't know me from Adam. And I said, we really need a safe location to distribute these masks. And she graciously volunteered her building to us so that we could have a drive-through mask pickup service for a Clarksville citizen, so that they didn't have to come inside of anywhere. We didn't have to go outside. It could keep the entire operation safe. So for an entire month in April, we were distributing masks from a Rite Aid location, a former Rite Aid location.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it took the entire Clarksville community to come together.
Oh, there's so many people. It would take the whole hour just to thank all of them. We also, a local family, Sandra C. and her husband Gordon, they bought Conrad Ellington's furniture store on Warfield Boulevard. And then when they heard about what we were doing, they graciously volunteered their enormous space. I don't know if you've ever been in that furniture store, but I would say it's 10,000 square feet. It's huge. And they said we could use it for a few weeks. 3 weeks, we said, okay, great, 3 weeks. We ended up being there 8 weeks. And they let us operate out of there. So when our sewers could pull up, donations could be made safely where we could wash them before giving them to sewers, because that started to be a concern. Like, what if we get a donation of fabric and the person who donated it had COVID? So even our donations, we had to sit for 2 days, let them sit, we would wash them before they could go out to a sewer. And then we had a cutting team that would cut the fabric first. So cutters would pull up, we'd bring them out fabric, they would bring it back, and then the sewing team would pull up, and we would have a bag made with mask materials, and then the nose pieces when we were doing the nose piece design. So it had a lot of moving parts, and so many people in this community stepped up. I mean, it was like the true volunteer of Tennessee.
Yeah.
It really was. It showed the best of Clarksville.
And I love the pictures that you sent me. You had so many colorful fabrics. Where did you get all of them from?
So in the beginning, we were mostly relying on donations from people's homes. I mean, we had a gentleman show up with, his wife had just passed away, and he showed up with all of her sewing stuff and donated it to the cause. And you try not to cry when that happens, but you can't help it. And then another lady, her mom had passed away, so she's like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to unload this with a gracious heart instead of a heavy heart. So in the beginning, it was mostly donated fabric. And then our GoFundMe page got traction.
Wow.
So we had a GoFundMe page, and then all of a sudden, people were donating $10, $20, $500, $1,000. So we were able to go to Walmart, and the Walmart on Sango in Exit 11, 8 different employees helped my driver get the fabric that she needed. We spent $4,000 on fabric on day 3 because of all the donations.
Right.
So they had an entire crew of people helping us get this fabric into the truck so that we could get it back to my house as quickly as possible, so that we could get it distributed to the sewers. Because you have to remember, in those first few days, we were on what was called panic mode, so we were just working as fast as we could. And because of all the volunteers that stepped up to help organize, we were able to get so many more masks sewn. instead of just, here or there 100, we were getting hundreds of masks sewn now at this point after a week.
Yeah.
So once we moved into headquarters, that's when we called it headquarters. It's on Warfield Boulevard. So if anybody's looking for a great space to rent, it is for rent, 327 Warfield Boulevard. And we were able to just set up an entire assembly line workshop. So we could stage, we could build shields, we could prep masks, we could wash all the materials, and we had a very strict policy with the cleanliness inside the building. So if we had volunteers coming in, they could be protected.
Right.
We did temperature checks. They had to wash in, wear gloves, wear a mask at all times. No one could be within 6 feet. So the high schools all across Clarksville had students coming in helping us.
Right.
Yeah, it was amazing to see these young people actually coming in and helping us.
Because they were out of school, so I'm sure they needed something to do.
Yeah, we had a specific volunteer. Her name was Rebecca. She came every day.
She was a high school student?
Yeah, she's my high school student. So every single day, Rebecca would come in, she would sit at her own little table, and she would build shields. So face masks were really important to the community and to the healthcare workers, but the face shields were very important to the ERs and the ORs because they couldn't get them. And we had early on, one of our volunteers who was like 15 came up with a template and a design for a face shield.
Wow.
And her mother and her started producing them. And so the shields became in very high demand. The emergency responders wanted them, all of the ERs wanted them. Anyone that was going to be in close proximity with a patient that had COVID wanted them. The EMT drivers, they didn't have them. So we made sure that they all had, hundreds of shields we would be giving out. So
does the shield eliminate the need of a mask?
Oh, the shield's just great. So basically, we even have a video, but you put on the shield and you put on your mask, okay? So if someone was to sneeze in your area, that shield would block all of their particles, their droplets from coming into you. If you take the shield off, those particles can still get into your mask. See, most people don't understand that the mask is not to stop you from getting COVID from someone else. It's to protect you from giving it to someone else. So in a hypothetical world, just everyone assume we all have COVID and you wear a mask and you're fine. But the shield is there to protect you because of the droplets. So you would see me in a lot of posts wearing my shield with my mask because anytime I was going to be around people, I did both. Just because I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't go down with sickness, and the operation would have a couple hiccups, not having someone keeping the orders going. And because I don't sew, I don't build face shields, I don't do any of that. But I am a multi-unit manager in my former life, so I knew how to keep that many parts moving and keep everyone organized, and the positivity and the excitement. Because you have to remember, everybody was kind of like at the stay-at-home stage, like getting depressed, and there wasn't a lot to do, and people were like, well, what am I supposed to do next? I've already cleaned the pantry. And then this gave everybody something to look forward to every day. Every single day, these volunteers were excited. And at one point, we topped out at over 300 volunteers in Clarksville. We had over 300 people actively helping us create and build and cut and sew and glue and deliver and donate. And I was just, like I say, it was a whirlwind. It was a whirlwind.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you started Operation Come Together, did you imagine that it would have such an impact?
No. I thought a few people would show up. We'd make a few masks for a couple hospitals and we'd be done. I had no idea what it was going to do, and I didn't realize that it was going to spread so much. I mean, I didn't realize that people in all the surrounding communities were going to want to help. So I think, we tried to do a tally. Once it spread, it was over 500 volunteers. We just couldn't keep up with it anymore. People were just going rogue and doing their own thing, and it was great. It was awesome.
And I love the name Operation Come Together because the Clarksville community genuinely came together.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And it was just wonderful. We had donations from all the businesses that are always out there doing. Hawkins Homes gave us $1,000.
Wow.
Like, there was a day when I was like, how are we going to get the money to pay for the paracord that we need to sew the military mask? Because we didn't have, because they needed a specific color, we needed to order it, and then this man just magically shows up at the front door with $1,000, and I'm like, we got paracord, So every time it felt like we were about to hit another brick wall, a new person, a divine intervention would be thrown right in our way. A man named Jim Manning got introduced to us after a newspaper article, and he single-handedly got our distribution site running. So he took the project on. I would have abandoned it. After looking at the building, I was like, no, there's no way I can do this.
Yeah.
And then this generous man who owns, a business where they do that type of thing, Jim Manning, he jumped in there and he said, I got this. He fixed everything. He made it to where we could operate safely out of that facility. And it was just awesome. And he did so much more for us too. I mean, he's my hero.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what's next for Operation Come Together?
Well, we have a volunteer out in Robertson County. Her name is Shanna Paschal. She said, it doesn't feel like Operation Come Together anymore. We've come together. We're still together. We're hanging out every day. We're doing good. So she's actually readjusted the focus to Operation Stay Together.
I love that.
Yeah. And so now her vision is like, anytime there is a crisis, anytime there's something that happens in the community, you have this group of people who are already do-gooders, who already want to help humanity, that are ready to go. So, they're ready. They're ready to jump on any type of, injury or accident or home fire or whatever it could be. But they're still actively making masks all over. Clarksville's still making masks. Fort Campbell is. Everyone's still kind of making masks. And I'm in a mask makers group, a nationwide one. The demand is still so high in so many areas that anyone that can sew should still be sewing, because this is not going away anytime soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever pick up sewing?
No. No, I watched them. We had one girl, she was paying attention to her 2-year-old. She wasn't really paying, and then she like cut off almost half her finger right here.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so we've lost a finger in this sewing expedition. But no, I'm not a sewer.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I don't have patience for things like that. And I would watch the girls sewing and serging and using a bias tape machine, and they had, it was just so crafty. I'm just not crafty.
Yeah, and it takes a strong person to be a leader, so I'm sure you were great with that. It sounded like you were great.
Well, that was all I could contribute. People would be like, what do you do here? I'm like, I just do the online stuff. I keep the excitement. I beg for money.
Right.
And that was my big thing, is begging for money, begging for supplies. And because of my photography business, I know so many people in this town, and I was not above groveling.
Yeah.
I was groveling to people, please, we need help, we need money. My good friend Rhett Barnes, who's a real estate agent here, I got him involved very early on because I know he knows people. And so I was like, come on, Rhett, help me out. And he did. He came out, he helped me out, he got it going. And then just so many other people. We had, Mayor Pitt showed up at one of our fundraisers.
Wow.
Because a guy named Scott Glyden with TriStar Barbecue, he was like, well, hey, let me help. Let's do a fundraiser. So he's a master pit barbecue guy. So he came out and he cooked Boston butts. He cooked whole chickens one weekend and then baby back ribs, so that we were able to sell food to the community to raise money, so we weren't having to beg for money anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so we were able to buy so much fabric and so much paracord off of those fundraisers. And Joe Pitts came out and he was like, here, I'll get a chicken. So, it was really nice to have him come out and support our cause.
Well, I love that. It sounds
Yeah.
like you made a really positive impact on Clarksville and other cities surrounding.
Yeah, it was awesome. One thing that I put out there one day was that there's a lot of people during this period who were selling masks, to supplement their incomes, or because they could sew and they could make masks, custom masks if you wanted a specific design, which isn't what we were doing. We were just getting fabric. We didn't care what it looked like, and we were sewing masks out of it. But at one point, I did the math, and the masks were going at about $7 a mask. Some of them more than that, 10 to 15. I saw one guy selling his for 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But so I did the math. 26,000 masks at $7 a pop means that $182,000 could have been made from these volunteers had they chosen to sell their talents instead of gift their love.
Right.
And I think that just is a true testament to this town. And the face shields, 8,000 face shields. Think about every medical facility that is being protected. That's one more nurse that's not getting COVID because she's protected. Now, I know that some of them are able to get PPE now, but there's still so many that are struggling across the country that can't get what they need to safely take care of their patients,
Right.
or their residents if they're in an assisted living facility.
And like you said, it makes a world of a difference to know that instead of selling 26,000 masks, you guys donated 26,000 masks.
Yeah, the community
That's
did.
amazing.
The community, the money that was raised, all the fabric that was donated. I mean, thread. You have no idea how much thread we went through. And anytime I posted, we are out of black thread and we need that specifically for military. Okay, fine. In 20 minutes, I had black thread showing up.
Wow.
I was in my garage one night because I was quarantined from my family during the beginning. I could not hug my children. I could not sleep in my house. I had to sleep, on an air bed. And I was commenting about how cold I was. next thing I know, I've got a knock on my basement door and I've got a heater. You know? So anytime the operation needed anything, I would just post it and magically it would appear. And it was just insane. There was never a day when we needed something that somebody in Clarksville didn't step up and bring it to us.
And that means even more to know that you sacrificed being around your family to help Clarksville and other cities.
Oh, I kind of went crazy the first week, and I actually took plastic and sectioned off my husband's side of the house. And I said, you have to stay on this side of the plastic. So we did that for about 4 days, and he was like, is this really how we're going to spend COVID? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just not sure. There was so much information coming out, you know, you didn't know.
Right.
But no, eventually I pulled the plastic down, and he was able to join the family again because he was an essential worker. So, you know, I was trying to protect the kids. But yeah, my daughter, the hardest part was my 4-year-old saying, Mommy, I just want to hug you. And I have to say, honey, you can't hug me. Not right now because I've been around too many people.
Right.
But then once we got the headquarters location donated at Warfield, we were able to keep our distance. We were able to socially do it. We were able to safely, you know, come in and out of the building. We had, I mean, it was safe. I want to say it was safer than a hospital in there.
Yeah.
It was the safest building in Clarksville. We were very strict. Everybody got a temperature check every time they came in the door. Gloves were changed. The masks were changed. The hand sanitizer, because of Old Glory, Old Glory switched over to making hand sanitizers. So we bartered with them. We were like, hey, we really need hand sanitizer in here. And they were like, hey, we could use some masks. And we're like, all right, let's do this. So and Airborne Disposal took care of our trash for us. I mean, there's a list of people on this paper I have in front of me of people who just jumped in. Their businesses helped, their families helped. Carolyn Petty was a huge contributor of ours from the American Red Cross. She really helped us, not only in guidance, but also financially. And she had a lot of great connections. So it helped the movement grow.
And now you're able to hug your 4-year-old.
Oh my gosh. We hug all the time. And it's gotten to the point of where COVID, for me, I'm a workaholic, and I always have been. I've been doing photography for 20 years. And I normally would work 14, 16-hour days. But for some reason during this, when I slowed down, and after Operation Come Together kind of slowed down, I realized, oh my gosh, I missed out on so much because I'm always working. And so for me, this has kind of been a blessing in disguise because it's helped me to realize, okay, I need to spend more quality, one-on-one time, hanging out, yesterday we went kayaking for the first time.
Oh, wow.
First time ever. I was just like, let's go kayaking. And we did. And the kids had a blast. And I was just like, wow, this is something we never would have done. We never would have done that.
And you made so many more connections in the Clarksville community.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I know everyone now. I feel like I have friends everywhere. And what's really great is, you know, I feel like if my family were ever to need something, I now know that we wouldn't have to, you know, struggle. We wouldn't because there's just so many people out there here that would help. Yeah, and I just loved it. It was amazing for me to see, because this is my home. You know, my daddy got stationed here when I was 5, and we never moved. My husband is a Clarksvillian. His dad is an author here. Michael Shoulders, an educator, and his mom is too. They're in the school system, and you know, they've been here their whole lives. I've been here most of my life. So this is our home. We are never leaving. This is where our children will grow up. Hopefully they'll stay too. You know, so it's been great to know that we directly, as a result of everyone's effort, I mean, those COVID cases could have been so much higher if we'd had an outbreak in our assisted living homes. And we didn't. We got them masked first. And we made sure that Premier Medical and Tenova had masks and shields, and Skyline in Nashville, we took care of them. Bach, we were getting them. We were, you know, putting mask into them, you know, so mask and shields to everybody. That's what we were doing. And there were days when we were wondering, how are we going to get 700 masks today? We need 700 to give to these facilities. And somehow the volunteers would see it, and they would sew their little hearts out and bring the mask. And I just couldn't believe it every day. Whatever number we put out there, they brought.
Yeah.
They made it happen.
I love that.
Yeah, we had one volunteer who sewed all day on Easter, so that we could give to a military group that needed them. So she spent her entire Easter day sewing.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Victoria. I'm honored to sit here with you, to know that you made such an impact on the Clarksville community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a journey.
Working with children can be a very difficult task. It takes patience, compassion, empathy, and and a list of many other essential traits to positively impact children and foster their growth and success. And sometimes it takes even more. Today, I am in high spirits as I sit with Navaseon Norfolk of Growth, a rising organization in Clarksville, Tennessee, centered around youth development. Welcome, Vasi. Thank you so much for joining me. First, tell me a little about yourself before we get into your organization.
All right, so full name Navaseon. I am a graduate of MTSU. I graduated in exercise science with a bachelor's. I love fitness. It is my calling, the competition, the ability to push your body to the limits, push your mental to the limits, is kind of just my calling. So fitness, I do cycling, I do group fitness, personal training, things of that nature. And it led me into how can I give back, more to the community? How can I give back more to the people who need it? And we started here.
Cool. So you told me before you graduated from MTSU, you did a semester at Austin Peay. What brought you back to Clarksville to do work here?
It's actually kind of funny. I went to Austin Peay for a semester, and I didn't meet a single person that was actually from Clarksville. I met people from West Tennessee. I met people from Nashville. I transferred back to MTSU just for a more comfortable field to find a little bit more of myself as well. I had random roommates, and every one of them was from Clarksville. All of their friends were from Clarksville. Most of the things that they did were for Clarksville. And so it led me back to the Clarksville community as well. It led me to want to be more ingrained and more involved as much as they were.
Okay, so let's dive a little into your organization. Can we start with the name, why you chose the name Growth?
Growth.
Is there a significance behind the PH instead of a TH?
There is. So we all know what growth means, to get better, to develop. And so I wanted to keep that meaning, the developmental part. And I threw the PH to let people know that this is like philanthropy. This is someone not looking for business to come in. I want to give back. And so I wanted that to be in the name. I wanted the people to look at Growth and see like the PH and know that it's an LLC, it's a business, but it's for you. It's for the people, it's for the community. It's to give, not to take.
I like that. So tell us a little about the organization for those who aren't familiar with it. How long have you been in the organization and what do you do?
So I officially started Growth a year ago. I started it because once again, I'm big into fitness. I love fitness. And I just asked myself, how can I give back? And there was just so much going on and so many people trying to do so many different things that I started to look at who I felt were negated. What group of people did I feel were negated? And I felt that was the youth. And I've always been a kid at heart. I've always been someone who can connect with the youth, who can connect with kids, who can connect with people just of varying ages. So I felt that this was my opportunity to give back. It was my opportunity to find fulfillment in life as well, to not just live life, but to give life. So, with that, I just, I jumped on it. And so I just jumped right in. I started an LLC immediately, went on Zoom, I believe, business Zoom, just, typed everything in, paid the money that needed to be paid, and immediately I started a donation drive. Where I asked people who felt that they may need it to just fill out a slip. I would pick 10 to 20 winners, and I would give them backpacks full of school supplies. And that was our first endeavor. That's how we got it up and going. Since then, I've done Sweat Support Sundays, where I give an hour of my time to the kids. We work out for 30 minutes, and then we have 30 minutes of peer discussion. I found that not with the youth, especially with generation, I believe it's Z now, they have so much to give. Like they have so much they want to talk about, so much that they know already, so much that they want to be a part of. So I didn't want to like go in and just be telling them what to do. I wanted to be an ear that can listen. And so, when I got it up and going, that was one of the biggest things is that, this is an adult that will listen to you, and I'm going to surround you with people of your age who will also listen and who can talk to and relate to what you say. So there's that. And since that year, I've gotten it going. I kind of lost my way for a second. I went back to working, taking care of the family, doing what I had to do financially. Quarantine hits, the coronavirus thing, man, I'm just locked up in the house, and all I have is my thoughts to myself. And I'm always just like, how can I feel fulfilled when this is over? How can I go back into life, I guess, because I feel like life was on pause with quarantine. How can I go back into life better than I left it? And I realized that to do that, I had to give my all to growth. It could no longer just be something I did on the side or something that was on the back burner that I gave my free time to. I decided to give all of my time to it. Since then, I've decided to change up the annual drive a little bit, and instead of just doing it all on my own, I want to now ask the community to give back a little bit more as well. I've upped my own standards and went from, all right, let me try to help 10 to 20 people, 10 to 20 students, and try to give back to a school, into now I'm like, all right, I want to help 100 students. I want to make a substantial impact, and that's where we are now. Trying to make that impact, trying to continuously give back, continuing to develop myself along with the kids, trying to show the parents in the community that this is something I love, and and I'm deserving of you putting your kids in my care and allowing me to develop them.
I really like that. So when you invite the troubled and underprivileged youth to work out with you, what types of changes do you see when you get them active and working out?
Oh man, they come in quiet, hey, what's your name? And my name, kind of just mumbling under their breath. By the end of the workout, things have gotten kind of ramped up. They've got a sweat going. They're not thinking about, oh, this is a stranger. Kind of I feel like, the physical part breaks down a lot of the mental barriers that they have coming in. And what that does is they just begin to open up more. We begin to talk. When we go into these topics, once again, I'm not here to tell them what to do or anything. I'm definitely going to try to give advice, give helpful advice, give insight, and steer them however possible. But once again, I want to be an ear. And what happens with them is that once they realize that they have that ear, they just talk more, and more begins to come out of them. And so they become more confident. I feel like, they realize that they're not being judged for what they say. There's no right or wrong to what they say. I'm just here to listen. And once they realize that, they leave. Once again, they come in as these mumbling kids and they leave with bright smiles. So I love it. That's
so cool. What age group do you work with?
We're ranging from 8 to 16, 8 to 17. I feel like with what we're geared towards, we want to, when they become adults, have them already comfortable. Have them comfortable with who they are, have them comfortable navigating the social hurdles and obstacles of life, have them comfortable in their health, so that they're going into the real world, going into college and things of that nature, fully prepared. So we want to help them from the second that they can fully understand life to the second that they're being thrown into life head first.
Okay, so after you work out, you said you sit them down. What types of questions and topics do you guys talk about?
Oh man, they range, and I really want the topics to continue to broaden and be things that they can relate to. But things that, examples would be just, how does social media impact them? We hear as adults, and I know I'm kind of a younger adult, but nonetheless, as adults, we're always saying that, oh man, this social media, Facebook came in and changed this, Instagram came in and changed this. So how do you guys feel about it? You guys weren't, I'm speaking to the youth here, but they weren't here prior to Facebook or Instagram. So how do they feel that it's now shaping their lives? How do they feel it would be if Instagram or Facebook, any social media was taken from them? So that would be one topic. Another topic would be, do you feel listened to? As kids, as youth students, do you feel that your teachers, your parents, your fellow peers, do they listen to you? Do you feel fulfilled in your life? Do you feel that what you're doing right now is a passion of yours? Do you feel that it's something that after school, after, once again, 8 to 17, after 6th grade, will you do this in 7th? After 7th grade, will you do this out of high school? If you're in high school, do you think this is something you will go to college for? And just helping them to find that passion, because I feel like that's something that's been lost in the school system, and all this economic change and whatnot, is how do I find myself and who I am? There's so many people, once again, it's the impact of social media. So many people are able to push you and tell you what to do and who to be. How do you find that for yourself? And so those are some of the things we just talk about and work through of, do you feel that you're given all the tools and these resources that are needed for you?
Right. As a graduate from a university, do you encourage them to pursue higher education?
Oh yeah, I would definitely want them to not so much pursue higher education. Yes, pursue higher education, but not that be your main goal, but the opportunity of getting out of the nest that you're in, seeing more people, connecting with more people, experiencing more things. Those are very important when it comes to finding your passion, feeling fulfilled, being who you are. So I wouldn't push them so much for, hey, go to a university, as much as try to be more, aim for more. You know, if you decide that, you know, you want to be someone who is impacting the court system, you know, going to school and be a lawyer would obviously be extremely helpful for you. But it'll also help you to see, okay, maybe I want to help these kind of people or these kind of people, and this is how I can do so. So I feel there's a lot more that comes out of a university than just the education part.
Yeah.
And I would love for them to also realize and be a part of that.
Yeah, and I know when I was in high school, that was an ongoing debate that college isn't for everyone. So as long as when you graduate, you're doing something productive. So just having that conversation with them, I'm sure is helpful.
Oh yeah, you know, and you know, hate to say it, but money is a big part of the world. So and they can look out and they can see all of these musicians and different types of creatives. We have social media influencers, all these people who just basically didn't have to go to college to find a niche or to be financially happy. With all of that, it's, you know, it's kind of hard to tell them, hey, go to college, you know, but I feel that I can tell them, find your passion, network with people, experience things, and college can help with that.
So do you find them coming to you for advice or the things that's happening in their school or at home?
Yeah, it's never so much outright, hey, what should I do? It's more of, this is what's going on. And that's what I love, is that I'm not going to give them an outright answer. I'm going to give them, I may tell them what I would do, and I would tell them why I would do it. And in making their decision, I would tell them the things that they should, you know, be focused on. But they come to me for someone to listen, you know, just for someone to help them get this burden off of their chest of whatever it may be. So I want to be that person to not place another burden on them of expectation.
Right.
You know, I just want to get that off of you.
Okay. And you have a back to school drive coming up.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
what types of school supplies do you need? You said it's for ages 8 through 16.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we're looking for everything at the moment: backpacks, paper, pens, pencils, crayons, binders, notebooks, folders, the whole nine. Anything that can be given would be useful. Once again, because there's such a wide range of students and youth in which we want to help. Anything that's brought in is a blessing, you know, and we're appreciative of it all.
And you said last year you did 10 to 20 students?
Yes.
And this year you're going for 100?
Oh, yes. Last year, yep, my goal was actually 20 students, and we were able to do that. I was able to help 10 students in Ripley, 10 students in Clarksville, and I also was able to donate school supplies to Brick Church Middle in Nashville. So with that, I would like to think in my head that we helped a lot more than that 20. But, you know, it just kind of, like, this year we were like, I mean, me personally, I was just like, I can do more. You know, we can do more, like, as a community. And so with everything that's, you know, going on, I don't think it needs to be spoken on. We all know and see what's going on the outside. Like, I want to make an even bigger impact this year. I knew this year it had to mean more. It had to be more special this year. So. Yeah.
So how can someone donate? Where should they drop off their donations, or how does that work?
Oh, yes. So if you're in the Clarksville area, Train 360, which I'm off the top of my head, I'm gonna try to get this right. I believe it is 402 Riverside Drive.
Okay.
All right, it's located right there next to Kelly's Burgers, right off of the lake. So dropping off any donations there would be extremely helpful. If you're in the Nashville area, they can drop it off at Full Ride Cycling, which is at One City Block. You know, the area is called One City Block, downtown Nashville. They can also drop it off at Code, which is located in Germantown, right near the GOAT. So any drop-off location, they can email me at growthllc@gmail.com. Or if, you know, they just so happen to come across me on social media, send me a message. I'll be happy to do any kind of pickups, even if they only have just one backpack, one pack of paper to give. You know, anything that they can give, we're gonna make a way to bring that in.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned social media because I told you that's how I found out about growth. I was just scrolling on Instagram and I saw the back to school drive. And I know on your story you talked about community. You were talking about your organization a lot and you mentioned community a lot. What does community mean? What does it mean for a child to have a safe community and somewhere that they can call home?
It takes a village. It takes a village to raise kids, and to bring kids up properly. And so with that, once kids see that they're supported not only in their home but on the outside, it's just so substantial on their mental being. It's substantial to their confidence and what they fully believe that they can accomplish. It's crazy to just no matter what age you are, to do something by yourself and then to do something with the full support of people behind you is mind blowing. So like that community aspect is extremely important because I started Growth on my own. A lot of what I do is of my own creation in terms of I'll decide to do a donation drive or I'll decide to do a growth session or be involved however I can. A lot of that is just me. But imagine if I'm able, one person, to help 20 to 30 students, if 10 people were to come together, if 20 people were to come together. Now think of a whole town or city coming together to do something. That's it, the idea of that is amazing, and I think that kids can feel that, no matter what age they are.
Okay, and we talked about how you can donate to the Back to School Drive. How can someone reap the benefits? How can children sign up to get a free backpack or free school supplies?
Email me. Okay. Definitely send an email to growthllc@gmail.com. We want to hear from those people. We want to make sure that these backpacks are going to people that truly need it. So send me that email and I'll get them over.
And is it the same process if they want to be a part of Growth, if they want to work out with you and have the conversations about social media in school?
Yes,
should they email you?
Yes, ma'am. We're actually going to have a pop-up shop coming up Juneteenth, so this Friday, in which I'll be giving a little bit more information on the workshops and the program and how to sign up and when to be available for them.
Can you tell me a little bit about the pop-up shop? What time and where and the purpose of it?
Yes, ma'am. So it will be at Train 360. There will be a number of Black-owned businesses that will come in. I'll have pamphlets set out, be willing to ask any questions. And so it'll be from 4 to 7 this Friday, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And once again, any Black-owned businesses that would like to be a part of it, I believe there are still tables open. And the shop is just going to be for people to see what Clarksville has. These are people that are in Clarksville. Once again, we've talked about community. This is that community coming together to display what they're made of all at once.
I really like that.
I like to reflect actually on our slogan, which is for the youth, by the community. And just, keeping that in mind and remembering that, again, that when people think growth, they may think youth and Vasi. But I don't want that to be the case. I want them to think growth and think Clarksville, think growth and think Nashville, growth Ripley, whatever it may be. I want a growth to be backed by the full community, town, and city. So this isn't something that I want to be an individual entity. I don't want people to be dissuaded by the LLC that they see at the end. This is full philanthropic efforts and a need and a call for everyone to come together for a collective cause.
Can you tell me about a time where you have worked with an underprivileged or troubled youth and like how they came into your training session and how they left? Or if you're still working with that person, how you've impacted them?
I can't speak to growth exactly because once again, with grassroots, we're still trying to get those kids that you spoke about in there. But I have once again done volunteer, I've done youth coaching prior, and I've just seen a kid go from, we're gonna speak physical limitations and how they, but just not able to get the ball to the hoop in basketball, and how it can lead to them being argumentative, just not want to step on the court, extremely stubborn, and just how a display of, all right, now I can get it to the rim, it just wakes them up. As bright as these lights are, their faces can get, and that is how we work, by helping them to exceed their physical limitations. I believe that it'll also break a lot of their mental barriers.
Thank you so much.
No problemo. Thank you for having me.
COVID-19 came as an unexpected burden for many people around the world, and these are just a few people who have paid it forward and made this experience a little better for many people in our Clarksville community. I'm Sydney Hawkins. Thank you for watching, and join us again on the Clarksville Community Network.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.